Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today, we're going over an Ice Magicka Warden for the Deadlands patch. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Max Magicka is 35.8k. Magic Recovery is 1.4. Maximum Health Unbuffed is 18.3. Spell Damage Unbuffed is 3.4. Our Spell Critical is at 50%. Our Spell Pen is 8.7. Now, I have 64 points into Magicka. Now keep in mind, I am a High Elf. So as a High Elf, I think High Elf is probably the top end when it comes to DPS for Magic classes. If you're not a High Elf, you can go Dark Elf, Khajiit. Those are your top three. And if you have trouble sustaining or want a little more sustain, Britain would be the way to go. But as long as you're not pushing for scores, you're not trying to min-max, then you can pretty much do any class, any race. So, or any race for the class. It's up to you. So now, what this looks like buffed, go ahead and pop this a couple times there. And you will see that our max health is 20.1, our magic recovery is 1.8, our spell damage is 4.1 without the weapon damage proc on our back bar. So, the food that we're running is the ghastly eyeball, which is it shows up as the ice cream, and then the boon that we're running is the thief. So, champion points, green tree for the passives, gilded fingers, fortune favors. It's just really nice. It allows us to get more gold from questing, treasure chests, safe boxes. It's just nice to have. So, then we just bridge the gap over here to Wanderer into Steadfast Enchantment. Basically, this gives us a 50% chance to not consume a charge on our weapons, which is nice. It kind of helps stop some of that lag freeze from where the weapons would uncharge in the middle of some fights. So, now, for the ones that I keep on my bar, Treasure Hunter, increased quality of items you find in treasure chests. It's absolutely great to have, especially if you're farming gold or farming a dungeon for a certain amount. Now, keep in mind, if you are in a normal dungeon, this is not going to give you a purple piece of jewelry. You're still going to get blue. But what it does is that it gives you a chance to get that blue from, let's say, like a simple chest. And then I keep Master Gatherer and Plentiful Harvest on my bar. Plentiful Harvest gives me a 50% chance to get double the resources from nodes, and Master Gatherer gives me a 50% time reduce and gathering. Now, I keep these on my bar because while I'm waiting on queues, waiting on trial teams, or just bored, or doing quests, whatever it may be, I'm usually farming in the middle, and these are just nice to have. So, but if you don't care about that at all, Steve's Blessing increase your out of combat movement speed by 20%, and Rationer gives you an extra 30 minutes on your food or drink buffs. Now, and then Liquid Efficiency is the last one I keep on my bar. Whenever you use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. So it's just nice to have. That 10% chance basically just saves you some gold, stops you, whether it's, you're using made poisons if you're using poisons, or if you're using spell power pots, it basically gives you a chance to just basically keep one. So, Red Tree, there are so many passes, but the ones I keep on my bar, Balanced Vitality gives me an extra 1400 max health. Fortified gives me an extra 1.7k armor. Rejuvenation gives me an extra 90 health, magic, and stamina recovery. And then all the way over here, I have Siphoning Skills, which basically, whenever I kill an enemy, I get 1500 magicka back. But you do have to land the killing blow in order to get that, unless that has been changed. Now, for the passive wise, Defiance, Tumbling. Hero's Vigor is one that I would recommend getting as soon as you can. It gives you an extra 560 max health. So, and then here we have Hasty inside the Wind Chaser, Sprinter, reduced cost of sprint, Tireless Guardian, Fortification, Savage Defense, Bashing Brutality, and Nimble Protector. Now, the Bash isn't really that big of a deal. Neither are kind of these. I would say Fortification is pretty nice to have. But just being able to keep up with people, because we are a magic user, our stamina isn't that high. So running through dungeons and trials, these two are really nice to have. Now, if you have the points, it's 10 here, 10 there. So either way, you just bridge the gap to Temper Soul. Basically, if you ever get caught sleeping and get dropped, when you get res, this will give you an extra 10% more of your resources. So it allows you to get up and actually get back into the fight instead of relying on an orb or a shard or heavy attacking. So it's nice to have if you have the extra champion points. If not, then just stick with the basics. These three up here, and try to get Hero's Vigor to go here. So now in the blue tree, for the passive, Precision, Eldritch Insight, also Piercing, Flawless Ritual, and War Mage. Those are passives. Only real passives that you actually have to have or that you need. Now for the ones that you keep on your bar, Fighting Finesse. I keep Fighting Finesse on my bar at all times. Gives me an extra 10% critical damage. And then I have Deadly Aim. Increase the damage done with single target attacks by 10%. Dominance. Increase your damage over time effects by 10%. Biting Aura increases the area of effect attacks by 10%. Mastered Arms. Increase your damage done with direct damage attacks by 10%. So you can really go with any of those three setup, however you want. I'm using Thermometer, Deadly Aim, and Biting Aura. Now, Backstabber. If you know you can stay behind the enemy, like the tank is not dancing and turning the enemy around, you actually have a tank. Backstabber is a good one to have on your bar. You can replace either of these. It won't make that much of a difference. The DPS goes up. Me personally, I get rid of Deadly Aim. That's just me, because we have 3 abilities that are area effect, and we have 2 dots, but we only have 1 single target. So I just kind of replace Deadly Aim. That's just me. But you can also go with Untamed Aggression. Just increases your weapon and spell damage by 150. And another one, if you want to use it, is Wrathful Strikes. Isn't a bad one to use either. So just, you can mix and match. And just find one that you like, or find a set that works for you, and just go with it. This is what works for me. Just set up your bar how you want. Now, sets. Frostbite. Pretty common set now for most Magicka Wardens. It does absolutely amazing. What this does, it gives us weapon or spell damage, gives us critical chance, gives us spell damage, and increase your damage done with frost abilities by 8%. Increase your damage done against chilled enemies by 4%, and increase your damage done against enemies afflicted with minor brutal by 2%. This is absolutely an amazing set to have, especially if you're trying to do that Magicka set. The second 5-piece set can definitely be alternated, mixed out, but Frostbite is an overland set. If I'm not, I want to say it comes from, I know it's a DLC zone. Blackwood, yeah, Blackwood, Frostbite. It's an overland set, very easy set to get. It's actually very cheap. It's a very cheap set to get, so just, you can either go in there and farm it, or just buy it off traders. I mean, I think I've seen Divine Pieces and Ice Staffs, if you want to roll Ice Staff, from this set for less than 5k. All the pieces, Divines, less than 5k. So, it's a pretty awesome set to have. It's one of the mandatory sets. I'm running it on the helmet and the shoulders, all Divines, all with Max Magicka. Now, the second 5-piece set that I'm running is, well, as you can see, I'm running it on the body mostly. And then the feet, all Divines. Now, the second 5-piece set that I'm running is Icy Conjurer. This is the best ice set for single target damage. What this does, we're running it all Divines, all Max Magicka. This set comes from Frostvault. And then we have Jewelry here, Arcane, all with spell damage. 2 Bloodthirsty, 1 Infused, 2 Infused, 1 Bloodthirsty, or all 3 Bloodthirsty. Whatever your heart is content. But both of them will kind of give you more DPS or Arcane. But Arcane is not bad. It comes in Arcane. So if you don't have the Transmute to use it on, or to change the trait, it's not that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world. So, like I said, this comes from Frostvault. And what this does, it gives us Max Magicka, spell damage, offensive penetration, and when you applying a minor debuff to your enemy, summon a non-reflectable ice ray that will charge into your enemy, dealing 15.6k frost damage over 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds, and scales off the higher of your weapon and spell damage. In dungeons, even self-buff is 15.6, just with Major Sorcery here. It goes up to 18.7. I've seen this around 22k, sometimes higher. It just depends on set. Like, I think a tank was running Yonerkins with Powerful Assault, and the healer had Spell Power Cure or Illyrium. I think that had Spell Power Cure. It was like a 25k dot frost damage, which is absolutely crazy, because that's a huge dot every 10 seconds. So Icy Conjurer, like I said, comes from Frostvault. It is a dungeon. It's a DLC dungeon. Um, let's see. It comes from Frostvault here. Um, oh, my bad. It's at the very top. This can be difficult. You can just do this on normal. Get the body pieces. Run Frostbite on the jewelry because it is an overland set, and you can get purple jewelry, at least on PS4 NA, for less than for 5K too. It's not an expensive set. Frostbite is not. So you can run Frostvault on normal and get this gear if you wanted to for the body. So you don't have to run purple jewelry. I just have purple jewelry, so I used it. Now, if you don't want to go with the single target setup, there is another set that you could definitely use, and it is Winterborn. Uh, did some tests here. It was kind of fun. And basically what this set does, I used infused breeches. You do want divines. But this comes from Maelstrom Arena. You can run it on normal to get the body pieces if you want. It gives you max Magicka, magic recovery, spell damage, and when you deal frost damage, you summon an ice pillar that deals 5k frost damage to all enemies within a 3-meter radius. Ice pillar persists for 2 seconds and reduces the movement speed of all enemies within the radius by 50%. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds, and the damage scales off the higher your weapon and spell damage. Now, buffed and dungeons, I've seen this up to 12k. Now, this is a 3-meter radius, so it does work kind of as an AoE frost damage. But single target wise, Icy Conjurer will outperform it. But Winterborn for AoE is not bad. So if you want to go more of that AoE route, not necessarily just focus single target, go with Winterborn. Or you can do Winterborn and Icy Conjurer if you wanted to, but I'm telling you, your damage will take a hit because Frostbite is so good. Another set that you could try, it's an overland set, comes from Eastmarch, is Yizgamore. Gives you critical chance, max Magicka, spell damage, and then when it's gold, but not gold, it gives you 386 spell damage to your frost damage abilities. If this is the golded out, it's 400. So it's still nice. You have options. Those are your those are really your only 4 options when it comes to ice sets. You can mix and match them however you want, but I'm telling you, just me personally, Frostbite should be one of your 5P sets. Outside of that, you can mix and match however you want with the rest of the sets. You can go Frostbite, Yizgamore, Frostbite, Icy Conjurer, Frostbite, Winterborn. Those would be my 3 setups. Now, back bar, I'm running Maelstrom Ice Staff infused with a weapon damage enchant. Basically, this increases our light and heavy attack damage. Your light and heavy attacks deal an additional 1.3 damage to enemies in your wall of elements. This is a really great set. It comes from normal Maelstrom Arena. Just get in there and get it. If you have trouble light attack weaving, it's not going to do you any good, but it's still worth going in there to get. You don't have. I don't know if I would run it if you're not light attack weaving, but it is still worth going in there to farm if you want that ice setup. And if you're not very good on your light attack weaving, just take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Just practice the rotation from time to time and work on the light attack weaving. Not every skill is going to have kind of like the same rhythm for that light attack weave, but the more you play around with it, the more you practice, the more you'll get comfortable with it. Now, if you're not going to use stuff like this, now on our front bar, we have the Master's Ice Staff. This comes from Dragonstar Arena. You can get this on normal. We're running a precise with a frost damage enchant. Now what this does is it reduces the cost of destructive touch by 10% and increases your weapon and spell damage by 600 for 4 seconds after activating it. Now, destructive touch, it's only going to give you that 600 for 4 seconds, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So basically, as you do your rotation, it works out because most of our dots are on like a 10 to 12 second scale timer. So we're going to have that 600 only for 4 seconds. But it should time up with at least 1, maybe 2 explosions from our shulks. And it's just nice, especially if you can time this with one of your ultimates. That extra 600 damage is awesome. Now, Dragonstar Arena on normal isn't that complicated. It can take some time, 30 to 45 minutes with a group if you have some friends. I've ran it with just 2 people. But it is, if you're your first time, I would try to go in there with a full group. So, now, if you don't have this and you don't have this, you can run a monster set. I'm not running a monster set because I found the DPS that I got from using the Master Ice Staff was just better. It was about 2 or 3k more, which isn't a lot. So you can run the Icy Conjurer or the Winterborn Ice Staff. It's up to you. But I had better DPS with the Master's Ice Staff. That's just me. So if you're going to use Icy Conjurer on the Ice Staff or Winterborn Ice Staff or Yizgamore Ice Staff, whatever it may be, the only monster set that gives you ice damage is Ice Heart. It gives you critical chance, and when you deal critical damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a damage shield that will absorb 4.8k damage for 6 seconds. While the damage shield holds, you deal 1.3k frost damage to all enemies within 5 meters of you every 1 second. Now, I don't stay that close enough for this shield to work. So I can get that shield, and it can kind of help me stay alive, but I'm not within 5 meters of my enemy. Like, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But for the most part, I'm I guess 6 to 8 meters away, so that shield never really deals any damage. But if you want to stay up on the boss, by all means, you can use this and get that extra damage. That's just kind of why I got rid of it. The damage shield was nice, the extra crit resistance was nice, or the extra spell crit was nice, but it just wasn't giving me any extra damage. So I tried out the Master Ice Staff, and it just outperformed. So I went and got the shoulders, and just this is kind of what I've been rolling with. It works. So basically, you have the Master Ice Staff, the Maelstrom Ice Staff, not Inferno, but Ice, for your 2 weapons, Frostbite, your main 5-piece set, and then the set that you can alternate it with, Icy Conjurer, Winterborn, or Yizgamore. So that's about all your options when it comes to frost damage. So skills-wise, Crushing Shot. Focus all the elemental energies with your staff and blast an enemy for 2.4k flame damage, 2.8k frost damage, and 2.4k shock damage. Enemies hit while casting are interrupted and set off balance, stun for 3 seconds. I know this does some flame and shock damage, but this is the only spammable that we could use that will deal some frost damage. So that's why I'm just going with it. And it's nice. That flame damage and the shock damage can also help provide burn, and the shock can also help proc off balance for us from the shock. So Crushing Shock kind of works out for us. Deep Fissure. Stir a group of shocks that attack after 3 seconds, dealing 12.2k magic damage to all 2 enemies in front of you. Enemies' damage are afflicted with Major Breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 5.9 for 6 seconds. So, Deep Fissure. I know these 2 here are not frost damage, but they're so good on a Warden that you just kind of have to use them. It's the only thing that's really going to keep you at a good DPS. Now, you can not use these and just kind of roleplay more, but you're going to severely lacking in damage. You're going to have like 4 skills, maybe 5, and your DPS is going to drop tremendously. You won't hit over 30k, and that's what we're aiming for, is at least that 30k mark. So, but just every 2 abilities, Deep Fissure should go off, so you'll just recast it on the 3rd. So, Fetcher Infection. Unleash a swarm of Fetcher flies to relentlessly attack an enemy, dealing 14.7k magic damage over 10 seconds. Every second cast of this ability deals 50% increased damage. The Fletcher flies rip through the enemy's flesh, afflicting them with minor vulnerability for the duration, increasing their damage taken by 5%. Again, just a nice little 10-second dot. It's awesome. Now, this is the ability we have to use in order to proc the Master's Ice Staff. So, make sure you're going with the reach. If you go with touch, or not touch, but clinch, you're going to taunt the enemy. So you want to make sure that you're morphing it to reach, or I might have the names wrong, but it starts off as destructive touch, and you want to morph it to the one that does not taunt. So do read the abilities, and it is reach. Devastate an enemy with an enhanced charge from your staff, dealing 8.4k frost damage and additional 10k frost damage over 10 seconds. Enemies hit by the initial hit are afflicted with chill status effect. So with chilled, when they're hit, Frostbite will proc. So, and chilled enemies, they're going to take a 4% increase in damage. So, it's nice. Wrong bar. And then we have Inner Light on bar here. It's here for the extra Magicka plus the Major Prophecy. Now, Northern Storm. Twist a violent storm around you, dealing 5k frost damage every 1 second for 8 seconds to enemies around you, and reducing their movement speed by 40%, and increase your max Magicka by 15% for 30 seconds. You and nearby allies gain major protection, reducing your damage taken by 10%. So the radius is 10 meters. So like I said, if you're standing a little ways back, you're not like within right up on the 5 meter arc for Ice Heart to work. You can use Northern Storm. It's 10 meter radius. You kind of judge your distance. I don't really use this one. I tend to use the Destro Ultimate more than anything. The only time I use this one is when there's tons of damage coming in and we need that little major protection. That's about it. It's the only time I really use that. Back bar, Blockade of Frost, Wall of Elements Morph. Slam your staff down and create an ice barrier in front of you, dealing 1.3k frost damage to enemies in the target area. Every 1 second, applying Frost Safeguard for 6 seconds to you and nearby allies that absorb up to 4.8k damage from projectiles. Till enemies become frozen and are immobilized for 4 seconds. Now this lasts for 14 seconds, and Winter's Revenge lasts for 12 seconds. Conjure ice shards at the target location to skewer enemies in the area, dealing 2.5k frost damage every 1 second for 12 seconds. Enemies are overcome with bitter cold, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. This ability has a higher chance to apply the chill status effect. Blue Betty. Call a Bettiness to your side, which restores 4.9k Magicka to you over 25 seconds and grants you major brutality and sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20%. Every 5 seconds, the net removes 1 negative effect from you. Barb Trap. Set a sharpened blade trap at your location, which takes 1.5 seconds to arm and lasts for 15 seconds. When triggered, the trap deals 2.5k bleed damage and an additional 10k bleed damage over 18 seconds. Grants you minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10% for the duration. So, this is the Fire's Guild ability. If you don't want to use it because it deals damage and it's kind of taking away that cold damage, you can always replace it with Channeled Acceleration. It has a cast time of 1.3 seconds. This is from the Sigil line and basically gives you minor force for 36 seconds. So, normal dungeons, I tend to just put this on because most bosses don't last that 36 seconds. So, it's just easier to just hit that and then keep reapplying Barb Trap every few seconds. Or every 2 rotations. Polar Wind. Envelop yourself in winter winds, instantly healing for 3.9k health, and additional 473 health every 1 second over 5 seconds. Wind also sweeps out in search of an ally within 12 meters, healing them for 3.9k health. While the effects persist, the wind pulses outwards, dealing 1.8k frost damage every 1 second to nearby enemies. The healing from this ability scales off your max health. Now, this is just my heal. That's the only reason why I'm using it, and it does some ice damage as well. So, if you have a healer and you find yourself not really ever using this to heal, you can just put it in a light on your back bar. That's what I would do. But I never know the groups that I'm going to get into when I queue for randoms. I never know what might happen. I've had healers disconnect at the end of stuff, and if I would have just had a heal, I could have finished the boss. So I basically got to the point where I always keep a heal on my bar now. Even if I need it or I don't, it is nice just to be able to self-sustain from time to time. Then the ultimate, Icy Rage. Create a catalytic storm at the target location that builds after 2 seconds and lay waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 9.5k frost damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. Enemies hit are immobilized for 3 seconds. So, as you can see, we have a lot of frost damage abilities, and then some not so, but it works out with the setup. Now, DPS wise, 35.4k with this setup. That's pretty good. If you're in a dungeon with people, you're going to be hitting harder than this because you're going to have the powerful assault, Yarnkin, spell power cure. You know, you're going to have those buffs. So you'll do more damage than this in general, but this is just self-buffed. Self-buffed, 35.4, more than enough to do most content. So, when it comes to DPSing, or when it comes to doing the rotation, I usually hit this twice before I go in, and I'm either going to pop Channeled Acceleration if I have it equipped. If not, then I'm going to have Barb Trap. So, hit it twice, pop a pot, Shulk, Trap, Wall of Elements, Winter's Revenge, and then at this point, usually I would cast Shulk a second time, and then you would go Swarm, Clinch, or Touch, Shulk, Force Pulse twice, and then you just repeat this process. And then Shulk, Swarm, Clinch, a couple times with Force Pulse or Crushing Shock, And then on the second rotation, when you come back through, you would everything on your back mark. Your bedding edge, your trap, and then just rotate back out. Shulk. Just keep it going. Drop your ultimate when you can. Sometimes as you speed up, you can do 2 or 3. You can get 3 or 4 crushing shocks in there. But for the most part, my food wore off, so I don't have the Magicka to really go through it. But it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. If you need a heal for whatever reason, you just hit Polar Wind. You'll heal up, and you'll see it'll pulsate some damage. So, let me eat my food here. So as it starts out, you would hit this twice before you go into battle. Shulk, Barb Trap, Wall, Winter's Revenge, Shulk, Swarm, Clinch, Shulk, and then Crushing Shock 2 times. Shulk, Wall, Winter's Revenge, and then Shulk should pop. You can do Shulk, Swarm, Clinch, couple more, Shulk, Wall, Winter, Betty, Barb Trap, and then Shulk, and then just keep going. Very simple rotation. It's very easy once you kind of get it. It's just a matter of just repeating the same thing. Every 2 rotations, you'll do Barb Trap and your bedding edge, and just keep it going. Every 2 abilities, you'll do Shulk. It's pretty easy. It's not that complicated. That's kind of the Ice Warden. So, let me know if you're running an Ice Warden. Let me know what you're using. Let me know if you're using something different. Or maybe I forgot about an ice set and you recommend I try it out. Let me know. And until next time, take care.